Hi, hi, hi. Are we ready? Yes, we're recording. Yo, all right. So, my people, today's Sunday. It was a fun day indeed. I actually met a guy that once ran for the presidency or wanted to run for the presidency of this country. I hung out with him. I've met him before a couple of times, but today I got to hang out with him. And we did end the last hour when everyone fucked off. I did get to like do my thing with him and have a conversation and ask him like deep questions about his vision, about what he wants to do and what he's trying to accomplish. It was a good mind fuck. But hey, let's start. I want to do fuck man, 3 videos today. All right, or not two videos today. Let's do 2 videos today. So I'm going to do the first one, which is I think coding. Is the computer doing the wrong thing, or are you telling it to do the wrong thing? Okay, it's something that blew my fucking mind at one point. And I think with this, I could actually tell you more about the story and about how I decided, why I decided to get into programming and the smaller things that kind of like shifted along the way. I'll also probably read the three main notes that I have that I wrote to myself when I was like, why would I want to start studying computer science slash software engineer? And it's gonna be cool. So coding, is the computer doing the wrong thing, or is it doing the wrong thing you're telling it? So the one thing about computers is, and that's the beauty of computers, is articulation. What do I mean? Code is precise. Again, what do I mean? What are you talking about, Tari? When I was in Liberia, and by the end of the last months I had over there, my friends would have described me as maybe delirious, or at the very least, incomprehensible. Incomprehensible. I was not being able to be comprehended. They just couldn't understand what the fuck I was talking about. And naturally, at that point in time, I got very like, I felt like the world was kind of like not fitting me. And I feel like everyone goes through that phase. And naturally, by the world means my own reality was no longer controlling or handling me. And so I was trying to explain stuff to people, to friends of mine, visions, ideas, thought processes. And one of the main things that I started thinking about was basically my startup that I'm working on right now, which ended up being like a complete methodology on how to gamify society because I'm targeting authenticity and culture and the value human beings actually contribute to the existence that we call society. But not to sway too far from the topic, the main thing that we are going to discuss right now is the fact that I wasn't able to like articulate what was happening in my mind. And under normal circumstances, people would just look at others and be like, "You're not understanding me. I can't believe you don't understand me." And they go into a dramatic fit. But knowing me, I was already in a mood that kind of like did not give a fuck anymore. So that's basically the end of a depressive state, you can call it. And in such states, normally you talk to people, and if they don't understand, you just don't talk to them anymore. And at one point, I realized like I don't have anyone else to talk to. And so, what would be something I can do in order for me to kind of get out of this thing? And it's at those stages where my insecurities kind of like start revealing themselves. They start smelling different. They start going like, "Hey man, you thought you were this and you're not. You thought this was okay and it isn't. You thought this was happening and it wasn't." And all these things, like your reality starts completely changing. Its entire form starts exhibiting itself with all the different things that were lurking in the shadows, which is beautiful. I love it. But at that point, I was actually like getting more and more engaged in computer science and like diving into the world and the history of it specifically because it needs to be interesting for me, right? Like I'm not just going to start programming without knowing what the fuck programming is about. It wasn't exciting for me to just grab a computer and like write stuff on it and then see stuff happen. as much as it is exciting for me right now, back then it wasn't. So for me to start picking up some form of interest, I started reading about computer science, watching videos, lectures, and to see what people talk about. Naturally, when you are trying to be a beginner at this kind of stuff, the first thing people teach you is basically they start teaching you beginner stuff, which do not connect to your mind because like you're entering a completely new field. The first you need to know is about the field. But so I wrote reasons why I wanted to learn software engineering, and these are basically my notes. One, never-ending growth, and the concept behind it was every day I build on top of yesterday's work, and I discussed this many times on this channel and many videos. The idea that every single day I'm contributing to something and it grows every single time I contribute to it, which means whatever I do today, I can build on top of it tomorrow, or I learn from it tomorrow, or. It's a very beautiful self-reflective thing. And these are the things that any person that's doing a craft, whether it's art, whether it's woodwork, whether it's just like the art of the art of cleaning the house, everything is just like these kinds of things. You get better at them every single time you do them, and you kind of like leave your mark on the world. And I use this as a quote because like I'm not, it's one of the interesting like interviews or podcasts that I've actually like seen with a programmer that does knitting. And she talks about leaving the mark on the world through knitting because every time she's knitting, something comes up at the end, and whatever comes up at the end, somebody wears, she uses it somewhere, like it's there, it's a thing that's there. The second was to articulate my thoughts, and I'll have to restructure how I talk to the computer and redesign my mind's map. And look at this. This took me maybe a week to write because I was like, if I'm able to talk to a computer, then I'll be able to talk to people. Imagine how desperate I was for something to understand me, somebody to understand me, or just like to kind of like make sense to myself and to people. And three, I'll be able to tell the computer what to do and to show people what's on my mind. That right now is what I talk about when it comes to expression. Because anytime I'm programming what I want to program. So I'll be able to show, to express to the world through the computer what my mind is thinking of and what my idea is and what my concept, my vision is, my goals are, all these kinds of things. I'll be able to do them because I'll be able to like use something that I built step by step towards. And so from that, my guys, I actually got to programming and computer science. So the frustrations of it all, forget that, because like it's the rite of passage. You kind of have to like understand how to think in terms of writing code so a computer could ask. And that's a beautiful frame. That's a beautiful framework that your mind gets to learn because ultimately the restructuring of something that didn't work the first time is, I think, a bigger problem in how we communicate to this world and how we engage with ourselves and with our reality. Because we think we're understanding, but the reality is what we're getting is the skimmed version of something, which feels like we get it, but the reality is we didn't truly get it. And every single time we have to press for, every time we come face to face with it, we feel the same frustration, and we have to reiterate it. And I think that's fucked up. But ultimately, when I was actually like, when I first started programming, I was like literally searching for resources, trying to make sense out of why I wasn't doing good. And it is really just the way you think of things and the way your mind works and the way you shift your mind's preference. And I saw a lecture by a guy. It's kind of like created some language or stuff like this. But one of the key things that he mentioned that I really, really liked was, is the computer doing the wrong thing or are you telling it the wrong thing to do? And it hit me. My first amendment in my intro to computer science, one of the three amendments was, I'll be able to articulate to the computer what I wanted to do. The second amendment, sorry. To articulate my thoughts, I'll have to restructure how I talk to the computer and redesign my mind's map. And I had forgotten that, like I think 3 months down the line. And so That made me realize that sometimes when we're expressing, what we think we're expressing is different than what we're truly expressing. And if the people we're expressing to don't really respond the way we want, is it really their fault? Or are we the ones that are expressing in not the most optimal way possible? And when you place it in that way, you kind of take all the responsibility towards everything that comes out of you. Because the reason why it's coming out is because you want it to land somewhere. And if you're not bringing it out properly, it's not going to land in the right place, or the right way, or the right time, or. You can fill out the blanks. There are a million blanks you can fill. But ultimately, if I am throwing something and it's not correct, it's only natural. It's if it lands somewhere, it's not going to land in the correct way. It's not going to land in a way that allows me to take a step forward. It's not going to land in a way that makes me feel that I actually like expressed myself. And so anytime you're trying to like have a conversation with somebody, maybe ask yourself the question, are they understanding the wrong thing? Or am I telling them the wrong thing for them to understand? Hey, this is a video and it's Sunday.